Let's bring in the Coalition's campaign spokesman, James Patterson, who joins us from a pre-polling booth in the Sydney electorate of Reid. James, welcome.
Thank you for having me.
Now, the Prime Minister said in his National Press Club address, the Liberals have not learned, they have not changed. Have you changed from what he describes as the dysfunction of 3 years ago?
Well, I think very clearly we have. We've had incredible stability, loyalty, collegiality, as we've launched a completely fresh platform and new policies to take to the Australian people, including real cost of living relief straight away, $14 off your fuel tank every time you fill up to $1,200 off your tax next year, and of course an ambitious plan to transition Australia to an emissions-free, nuclear-powered nation.
Okay, so your message is we're not the same Liberal Party that you were 3 years ago.
Well, very clearly we're not. We have a new leader, we have a new front bench, we have new policies, we have a new agenda, and our agenda is about getting our country back on track because it has got so off track after the last 3 years under Anthony Albanese. He promised us, all Australians, that they would be better off when he became Prime Minister. No Australian can say they're better off now than they were 3 years ago. He even promised that people would have cheaper mortgages, Patricia. I've yet to meet any Australian who's got a cheaper mortgage today than they had 3 years ago, and the Prime Minister has failed to deliver on that agenda.
Anthony Albanese says Australia needs stability at a time of global uncertainty. Now, that's a message that resonated, as we know, in Canada. Do you accept that change now might seem risky for many Australians?
Well, the change that I think a lot of Australians are contemplating and worried about is a change to a re-elected Albanese government, but this time in minority, having to cobble together some kind of coalition arrangement with the Teals and the Greens. That would be change, that would risk stability, that would be very uncertain in a dangerous world. What we're offering the Australian people is a strong coalition government led by Peter Dutton that can govern in its own right, that would govern in our own right if we're successful on Saturday, that will offer people strong leadership in dangerous and difficult times.
Just on some other issues about, your electoral chances, do you believe One Nation preferences could make the final result tighter than the published polling is showing, that it might actually help you in key seats?
Well, I've certainly seen that speculation, Patricia, but the honest answer to that question is no one knows, and we won't know until election night, and we're not asking people to vote for any other party other than the Liberal and National parties at this election. We're looking for primary votes, not preferences, and we hope to get enough of those to win enough seats around the country so that we can govern in our own right.
OK, but you do have this preference deal with One Nation. You wouldn't have done it unless you thought that it could get you across the line in certain seats, right?
We have done no preference deal with One Nation. Months ago, Pauline Hanson publicly said that they'll be putting the Greens last, the Teals second last and Labor third last. That was a decision that they made independent of any negotiations or discussions with the Liberal Party, and their preferences are a matter for them, and they've decided to allocate them in that way, and our preferences are a matter for us. Liberal preferences really won't be distributed in almost any seat in the country. They certainly won't be distributed to any One Nation candidate because there's no One Nation candidate who's in contention for winning any lower house seat. They'll be eliminated long before any Liberal candidate would be.
OK, but you have preferenced them number 2 in places, haven't you?
Yes, we have preference in number 2 in some seats, and that's interesting, but you have to nominate candidates on a ballot paper. In none of those seats will the Liberal Party preferences be distributed to anyone, let alone One Nation, who will get a smaller primary vote than us, and therefore their candidates will be eliminated before us.
OK, let me put this to you. I mean, Pauline Hanson turned up in Parliament, as you know, in a burqa. She has said many inflammatory things about the Islamic community. You'd have to say that some of those actions are pretty Islamophobic. You've criticised Labor for what you say is a preference deal in relation to the Greens for being anti-Semitic. Why don't the rules apply for you? Why is number 2 OK for a party that has done these inflammatory things, but Labor should be scrutinised? Because to me, there are similarities.
Sure. Yeah, I hear what you're saying, but there's a key difference there, which is that the Greens political party are in contention to win some seats. They will finish first or second in primary votes in some seats, and Labor has preferenced them in those seats. So Labor preferences can go to electing Greens members around the country in a way that Liberal preferences will never go to electing a One Nation member.
Well, they will in the Senate. You might end up with quite a few One Nation senators.
Patricia, let me tell you, we have preference for Labor Party in the Senate in some states and territories because you have to nominate 6 parties for preferences. I assure you we are not encouraging people to vote Labor. They are our principal political opponents. We do not want them to be elected to the Senate, but you have to nominate parties in the Senate to receive preferences. What we're asking people to do is vote one Liberal and National, not for any other party.
But do you understand what I'm saying, don't you? That in terms of values, it sends a message that you think maybe some of that stuff's okay? Can you see that it looks like that?
No, I don't accept that, Patricia. I understand that might be your view, but I don't agree with it. We're not endorsing any other party in this contest. We are.
Well, that's what Labor says when I press them. That's what they say. They say it's about us. Like, it's the same argument.
It's a different argument, though, because Labor preferences can actually elect Greens members around the country in lower house seats. Our preferences will not go to elect any One Nation candidate anywhere in a lower house around Australia.
You're in the seat of Reid. It's a seat currently held by Labor's Sally Situ on a margin, I think it's about 5.2%. If you win a seat like that, could that herald an unexpected path to the Lodge for Peter Dutton?
Well, Grange Chung, our candidate for Reid, standing just over my shoulder, is an absolutely outstanding candidate who's given great service to this country already in uniform as a private citizen and is now putting his hand up to represent the people of Reid. We're very proud to have a candidate of his calibre in this seat, and I do think he has a good shot at this seat. He's been working incredibly hard and he's got an amazing group of volunteers behind me here, and so I think there is a real chance that we'll be able to win seats like this, and certainly if we do win seats like this, that will mean we're in a very good position to form our own government.
Where do you stand on these election text message spams? I've got another one from the Trumpet of Patriots again today. I press the block and report button, which you can, and they come back. Do you have a view on whether these things should be banned?
I get them too, Patricia, and I don't like them either, and understand why a lot of Australians find it intrusive and unwelcome. As you know, we have an implied freedom of political communication in Australia. The High Court has upheld that many times, and that does mean that political parties have extraordinary latitude to communicate with voters during an election campaign, even in an annoying way, whether it's text messages or emails or ads. And so I think it would be constitutionally very difficult to restrict that. And we'd have to think very carefully as a country through whether or not we did want to restrict free political communication in an election campaign, as annoying as it can be sometimes. Yeah,
well, it is complex, I agree. Just on inflation figures, this is the target band now that we have entered, that the RBA sets. That's definitely good news, isn't it?
Well, unfortunately for Australians, it's come too little too late. I mean, their living standards are down 8% on this Prime Minister's watch. That's the highest in the developed world and the worst fall in living standards in Australia's history. So while there might be a slight moderation in inflation figures recently, it doesn't undo the pain that's happened over the last years. It doesn't reverse the 30% increase in grocery prices or the 32% increase in electricity prices or the 34% increase in gas prices. And it is going to take years for Australians to recover the living standards that they've lost under this government.
So the last couple of days are upon us. Just finally, what does that look like for your campaign? Is that about hitting as many teal seats for the opposition leader? What is the strategy?
Well, Peter's crisscrossing the country trying to visit as many target seats as possible, including seats that we're trying to win from the Labor Party, seats that we're trying to win from the Greens, and seats that we're going to try to win from the Teals, including in Victoria, in Melbourne today. It's a sprint to the finish because we've got to get our message out to the Australian people about $14 off every tank of petrol or diesel, about $1,200 off your tax next year, about our plan to drive more gas into the East Coast system to drive electricity prices down and gas prices down, and to deliver the strong economy that Australians need and deserve.
Thanks so much for joining us this afternoon.
Thank you for having me.